PLOs and SLOs. This is a practice session being conducted by Dr. Mehwish Raza. Over to you, Dr. Mehwish.
So thank you so much for joining us for today's session. I'm going to take you through the overview of the session. Today's session is a practice session. Last time we had some technical glitches because of which we were not able to accomplish these two activities. So just to give you an overview of today's session, we will start with a review of expectations of curriculum mapping at FC College. Then we are going to have two best case examples where Dr. Silvia Machado from the Department of Environmental Sciences is going to present her department's case that how different PLOs are accomplished through the entire syllabus that is taught within their degree program. And then Ms. Mussarat Machado, the head of Forman Writing Center, will come in and present that how she plans her different activities using an integration of Bloom's and Fink's taxonomy, and because that's also one of the expectations that we talked about in our previous session. So we have these two best case examples. After that, we'll have a brief session where we are going to, of course, distribute the participants in different break. With a rubric, you would be self-reflecting on your course outlines and then commenting on the extent to which your course outlines accomplish the program learning outcomes. You will share your findings within the groups and then come back with your reflections. And then we will have a reflection session, and that would be it. So today's session is not going to be it's more interactive, it's more integrative. We want you all to actually talk about the real issues that you have when it comes to aligning SLOs with PLOs, and also to talk about the existing practices at FC College. So last time we talked about domains of learning at FC. So we just a quick recap of that. The Vice Rector's Office expects from all the faculty members to have the course outlines in such a way that there is content and theory of the discipline, there's some sort of methodology and skills, application of knowledge, there should be higher order thinking skills, then there has to be a component on value education, and then of course students have to prepare for the future, which means that maybe their next stages in the academic journey or professional careers. So if you look at this continuum, you'd clearly see an integration of Bloom's taxonomy and Fink's taxonomy, because it's not only talking about cognitive development of students, but it's also talking about some life skills and application of knowledge. So that's exactly how the expectations are laid out, that there has to be an integration of Bloom's and Fink's taxonomies when you're developing your course outline, so that this whole cycle of domains of learning should be accomplished through every course. We know that we are using Watermark, and in Watermark, different courses appear on different levels of accomplishment. Some courses are just introductory level, where the basic concepts are being introduced to the students. Then we have some courses that reinforce the learned concepts. Then the third level is mastery, and essentially assessment is paired up with the mastery level. Now, there was a little bit confusion. And in the last session, we did receive a few questions there where faculty members were confused about it, that the assessments that every course, assessment is an essential component of every course, right? So the assessments which are planned for every course, be it the introductory level, wouldn't they be reflected in the Watermark system? So we checked it with the QEC, and we found that these are specifically the assessments which are coupled with the mastery level courses, which means that Watermark assessment system reflects the assessment only where the program learning outcomes are formally assessed. And that happens only with the courses where there's a mastery level component. And I think that Silvia is going to talk in more detail about that. But that's one thing that we did receive. I mean, it surfaced in the previous session, and I think there's some clarity required. During the reflection session, if any one of you has more information about it or wants to share your own experience, please do let us know, and it would be our pleasure to basically listen to, to your own experiences. All right. Just a quick overview of how we expect PLOs to be reflected through the student learning outcomes. So in the previous session, we used this case example from the Department of Education, where this is their program mission statement. The program mission statement should well articulate all the objectives or all the outcomes that the program needs to accomplish by the end of the graduation. So the key areas that we identified were to prepare students for their employment, pursuit of advanced degree, lifelong learners, transformative pedagogical skills, and problem-solving skills. So in consultation with the Dean of Faculty, we identified the key areas. Different courses are then planned, and SLOs are defined so that these key PLOs should be, the PLOs are defined in accordance with these key words, and then student learning outcomes are defined for different courses to accomplish these program learning outcomes. Different domains of program learning outcomes are defined. Every course should have some sort of theoretical content, some methodology, application. It should promote higher order thinking skills. There should be an element of value education. And of course, it should prepare students for their future life, whatever it may be. And progression levels as per Watermark are introductory, reinforced, master, and assessment. We know that. So this was a simple, breakdown of a program learning or program mission statement into how it should feed into different courses. Now I would request Silvia to please share her presentation or whatever resources she wants to take the participants through, and share the successful case of Department of Environmental Sciences, where they have really, done a great job in terms of alignment of student learning outcomes with their program learning outcomes.
Okay, I'm on mute. Everyone can hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So first and foremost, thank you for inviting me to talk on this. Um, uh, at this point, and I think that what Mavish was saying, that at the beginning when we started discussing about Watermark and about program assessment, we had to define within the core courses that we had to define in which courses did we have introduction, introductory level, or reinforcement, mastery, and within these mastery level courses, where we would define the assessments to measure the program learning outcomes. This for the Watermark assessments. So that's where we define specific assessments that we have to give in the courses, and those values will determine if we are able to accomplish what we say that we want to achieve with our program, or what kind of modifications, what kind of changes, improvements we need to make to achieve those learning outcomes. This is translated into into the program itself and what we did for environmental sciences, we defined that for all the courses that we teach, we would make sure that we would try to integrate the 6 areas of the areas that need to be covered that were already discussed by Dr. Mevish, of content and theory and of the discipline, methodology and skills, application knowledge, higher order critical thinking, values and future. So when we were defining the program learning outcomes based on our mission statement, it prepares students for employment in environment-related areas and or to pursue advanced degree in environmental sciences related fields by imparting knowledge and developing understanding and relevant practice techniques and skills of environmental sciences. This is kind of, a summary of what were the program learning outcomes that we defined at that stage. And these program learning outcomes, I don't think I need to read all of them, but we integrated these program learning outcomes. We have minimum 1 or 2 program learning outcomes for each one of these 6 areas. So since it would not be feasible to have 9 or 10 student learning outcomes per course, we defined in our program that we should consider to have minimum 6 student learning outcomes, and within these 6, 1 per area or 1 per area of these areas that cover the program learning outcomes. This means that we are able to integrate in our courses each one of these 6 areas, and within the 9 or 10 program learning outcomes. That means that if we want to cover content and theory of the discipline within PLO 1.1 or 5.1, we will be able to integrate one assessment that will cover this area, and so forth for the 6 areas that we are developing. This means, and using there are very good tools that CLT provided us, that it's kind of a roadmap for us to be able to integrate and to write our student learning outcomes. This is for one of the courses that I'm teaching currently. I think it's the course 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 6 mastery and assessment levels for the Watermark. So that's why I chose this course, that we needed to integrate all 6 areas for the different PLOs that we have and that are required for the assessments. So content and theory, and I'm already going to overlap with Dr. Mussarat is going to talk. So content and theory, students will categorize and analyze human activities causing environmental degradation, methodology and skills, ensuring using both Bloom's taxonomy and different levels or domains of learning, using different verbs to ensure that we integrate this component as well. And then which PLOs are covered with these student learning outcomes. So I went a bit further and kind of to integrate the Bloom's taxonomy and the DFINC. So use it kind of as a metric that we are able to understand that which verbs we should be using, and to cover as well what PLOs we are covering for this purpose. So I don't think I should continue this. I thank you for the time, and I think Dr. Mussarat will be able to continue with her part for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. But before you leave and before we invite Mussarat to share her
Yeah,
segment, I have a few questions for clarity. So
please.
after looking at your presentation, I can say that the program learning outcomes
Mhm.
essentially have to be under these 6 domains of learning. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, we
Okay.
defined when we were defining the program learning outcomes, we ensured that we covered all these 6 areas
Okay.
with
And is
one
there
or more PLOs.
Okay. And is there any limitation on the number of PLOs that need to be defined under each area?
There's no limitation, but again, when we make a big list, if we are making a big shopping list, may not be able to accomplish all. So we have to understand that what are the aspects that we want to emphasize and work from there. Probably in the future, if we are able to cover and to master to complete these PLOs, we can focus in some other areas. But we were trying to keep it in a feasible amount of PLOs that we can cover.
And if I may ask, how many courses do you offer to accomplish these PLOs?
Because we do not teach all the courses that we offer to our students, because it's an interdisciplinary program and a lot of different departments offer our own even core courses. We have currently 5 core courses only, that are used to cover all the PLOs.
Okay, so you're covering all the PLOs through these 5 courses only.
5 courses, yes. So we design assessments within these 5 courses, assessment to be able to measure these PLOs.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. I strongly encourage the participants to please post questions for Sylvia. You can use the meeting chat for that. And with that, Sylvia, thank you so much. But please stay in the meeting with us. And
Sure.
I'd like to request Mussarat to please share her slides. Mussarat, are you here in the meeting with us? All right, there she is.
I am. Hello, thank you very much,
Hello.
Mavish.
Yeah.
I hope that you all can see the slide, document. I did not put it on a slide because it would
That's
not
fine.
have become readable. Okay. So shall I go?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. So this was an example. I teach Creative Writing 250 course in the English department. And this was one of the, I call it segments of my creative writing course, which is allegorical stories and poems. Now, I wanted to share this one example of an allegorical poem and the task that I set and how I link it with the program learning outcomes and what is the process of linking the program learning outcomes to the teacher objectives and then to the student learning outcomes. Because in my creative writing course, the kind of the concepts that I teach, for each one of those, I give about 2.5 weeks. And there's a lot of reading, there's a lot of writing, shorter segments, longer segments. And then in the end, then all my student learning outcomes are achieved. So I'll just quickly want you to just go through the task. So the task was creating an allegorical poem that demonstrates understanding of societal issues using an object, artifact, or a painting, offering a nuanced commentary, critical reflection, and interpretations to present an original and well-developed perspective that evokes a strong emotional response and has a lasting impact on the reader. Now, seems to be a little extensive. However, the kind of to break down this task, I have given a lot of reading materials to students. They bring their own examples of allegorical poems from literature. So the program learning outcomes in the English department, there are 6 program learning outcomes, out of which The ones that I have here as an example is that addresses the 250 level courses. So almost there. But what I usually do is to look at this program learning objective, and I also see what is the next level. So if you see over here in purple, the program learning objective for ENGL 403, here in 201 courses, the students as active readers will express their appreciation for ambiguity and interpret multiple perspectives. So that was the program learning objective that I broke down for my course. And then I want my students to be able to be ready for ENGL 403. So the two learning objectives, which is the middle one, the students will appraise the diversity of literary and social voices within and sometimes marginalized by major traditions of literature in prose. These are two, and I'm preparing them for the one in purple. So what I usually do is break down the program learning objectives, which are encourage critical thinking. So this program learning objective up above, which is active readers will express their appreciation for ambiguity, I broke it down, and this is for the audience. So encouraging critical engagement with text, teach techniques for analyzing ambiguity, facilitate discussions and debates, guide in the development of analytical skills. So all of these are broken down of the breakdown of the PLO. Now, when we go down, what I do is I also then use the Definks model and then learning objectives and student learning outcomes. Now, I'm sure that I don't want to repeat, but learning objectives are what the teachers set. It is from the teacher's perspective. Learning outcomes are from the student's perspective. So what is the student going to be able to do, demonstrate, so create, formulate. So it is more of an action that the teacher expects the students to do at the end of any learning, after the learning task or activity or project. So if you see all these the verbs, excuse me, when we see learning objective action verbs, we have analyze, interpret, examine, explain, develop, apply, convey, make. And if you look at the other side, it's more about demonstrate, use, illustrate, provide, create, ensure, enhance, produce, reflect, demonstrate again, and interact. Now, what I do then is, and this is something that I do for all the projects or the segments that I have, is that I break down these verbs into what I want the students to do. So it's, if you go back to the task is create an allegorical poem that demonstrates your understanding of social issues using objects and artifact, or a painting offering a nuanced commentary, critical reflection, and interpretations to present an original and well-developed perspectives that evokes a strong emotional response and has a lasting impact on the reader. So for this, if you see, all the dimensions of the Finks framework have been utilized. So analyze societal issues.
Mussarat, we cannot see your screen. We can't see the task description. If you can minimize it or maybe scroll down a little bit.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Like we can see it, but we can just see expectations for teachers in this PLO.
No, I have shared, there's a table. You can't see the table?
No,
Mavish,
no.
I shared it with you. Can you show yours, the one that I shared it with you?
I'll take a moment to do that. But in the meanwhile, if you can
I'll just
share and yeah.
Yeah. So you see, on the left side of the screen, I have all the objectives and the verbs. So students' objectives, students will, they will do whatever So analyze and they will interpret. They will examine and explain. So develop their critical thinking skills by examining how a poem engages with social, cultural, and political issues. So if you go down horizontally, you will see all the DFINCS framework: foundational knowledge, application, integration, human dimension, caring, learning to learn. Can you all see the screen?
Ms. Mussarat, can you please reshare the screen?
Okay. So I'll stop share and then I'll share again.
How's this, Mussarat, if I share it on the screen for you?
Yes, that's what I was saying, if you can share it.
Okay. Is it visible? Ifra, can you see the table?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So go on, Mussarat.
If you can go down, please, Mevish. Down. Yeah, this one. So I was explaining this one. So if you see on top in the pink bar, all the objectives, the verbs that I had identified are written horizontally under DFINCS each stage. So these are objectives. And if you go down again in the next pink bar, then we have student learning outcomes. So outcomes are a product, outcome objectives are the product of the student learning outcomes. So we have outcomes where what is the student supposed to do at the end of this entire activity. So it's like a 2.5 to 3 weeks activity where there were poems and there were stories, both. At the end, I had them write one short story and one poem. So if you could go down again, Mevish, another page. And here is the rubric. So all of that, whatever the student learning outcomes were, then translate into this rubric, which I give to the students before, as I give them the task. Because then my expectations of what I want them to achieve in the poem or whatever I'm doing, then they can actually trace their own progression and they can see if they have achieved whatever the teacher set out for them. So, and I make sure that I go from the Bloom's taxonomy's foundational level, or you can say the knowledge level or the lower level of thinking to the highest level, which is creating. And then it involves application, it involves critical thinking, it involves evaluation as well. So a lot of reading, a lot of critical analysis, a lot of doing their own work, which is longer and shorter. So this is the entire process that I go through. And I have also given an example down below, two poems that the students wrote and my feedback, which I give. So this is the the sketch that the student drew, and it's about a societal issue. It's about body shaming. It's about something that the child was affected. The second one, the child chose Tower of Pisa and Leaning Tower of Pisa, and she has written about her own the way she leans or the way people look at, so the flaws are the strengths. That is the message in that poem. So that's about it. I think that, it's a process that we need to follow. And if the FINCS framework gives us a great framework, and then if we use the Bloom's cognitive levels and the psychomotor and the affective domains and the verbs that are used, and then frame our lessons or activities accordingly, maybe a 1 month segment or 3 week segment or 2 week segment. It depends entirely upon you. So I think that you will enjoy doing this process. Thank you very much, Mevish. I think.
Thank you so much, Mussarat. This is very extensive planning. The best thing that I like about it is this, where you basically define that to accomplish any program learning outcome, what is it that the teacher needs to do? I think I don't know how many faculty can, do this kind of extensive planning, but a good takeaway from today's session would be, and I'm going to practice this myself as a teacher, that I'm going to determine that in order to accomplish this program learning outcome, what is it that I'm supposed to do? And I think this is a beautiful way to just define and to really meet your program learning outcome. So thank you so much, Mussarat. This was really interesting. Taking on from here, I'm going to stop sharing this
Yeah. Thank you
document.
very much, everyone. Okay.
Thank you. And I would go back to my presentation. So now we have a little task for you all. We are going to assign you into a breakout room, and I will share before before we break into different rooms, I will share this link to the rubric. It's on yours in the meeting chat. This is a document that we have developed for the faculty to just see that how well their courses accomplish the program learning outcomes, and basically what is it that we all need to be mindful of. So you have to use the provided rubric to reflect on your course and then share your findings, whatever they might be, with your peers in the group. And every group needs to bring one interesting finding or an intriguing question for both of our presenters. So you can, you're free to choose if you want to share any personal experience or a finding that during this activity, or if you want to ask a question from our resource persons. So we'll meet during the reflections session. You have about 10 minutes for this activity. And Ifra is going to now divide the participants randomly into breakout rooms.
Dr. Mavish, somebody mentioned that they cannot hear. If you could just repeat the instructions once again.
Sure. So what I'm going to do, let me take you guys through the rubric. Just give me a minute, please. Many of you have already accessed it, but this is the rubric that we want you to refer to. And I'm sure that you have brought a course outline to this session. So refer to that course outline, reflect on it. This is the criteria that we expect the faculty to be mindful of when they are describing or when they are developing their course outline. So you have to see that how well are your student learning outcomes composed, how well are they aligned with the program learning outcomes, what is the scope of your program learning outcome coverage. Remember, we talked about some cognitive development and then some value education. That's what Silvia also talked about. And then lastly, what is the range of your assessment methods? So this rubric has been developed by modifying a resource from San Diego College of Continuing Education. There is an explicit note in the end where we are reinforcing that your student learning outcomes should be a good integration of the range of cognitive skills as well as the Defense taxonomy, what Mussarat has just talked about. So with this, we are going to break into different groups, and we'll come back in 10 minutes with our observations and some questions. Thank you. Colleagues and discipline. So that's where it is possible. But for 100-level course, just to expect that it is going to cover all of your program learning outcomes, I think that would be a little bit overambitious. So with that, I open the floor for conversation, for your comments. Please raise your hand if you want to say something. If you have a comment, please use the meeting chat to post your comment. And soon we will be running the evaluation for this session. So
we are going to start the polling as well, so you can do that in the meantime.
All right. And in the meanwhile, please raise your hand if you have a comment or if you have an interesting find to share. Thank you so much, Sabah, for liking the rubric. Please use it actively for when you are designing your courses. So we have our first comment from Dr. Subha Mir. Subha, please unmute yourself and please go ahead. We can't hear you, Subha. Yes.
Yes, I was unable to unmute myself. Only host can do that, so sorry. So two things. First, I was wondering, I was in session with Dr. Korat and another faculty member from economics department, and we were wondering if we have a departmental level workshop on aligning PLOs and SLOs at the end of this semester or before next one. That would be very helpful, because being from English department, when Miss Mussarat gave her presentation, it made a lot more sense and seemed very helpful. So I feel, even though we have a lot of course designed, and we discussed, me and Dr. Kurat, that we already have a lot of this on our outlines, so we are in good shape, but it would be nice to reassess all those courses, as well as to learn from colleagues and discuss that. Another question that I was wondering is that there were two categories. One was alignment of SLOs and PLOs, and another was scope of SLO and PLOs. And I was personally not very clear about what is the difference, because the categories seemed similar when I looked at the explanation of each category. So if anybody can explain that. The alignment, it makes sense that they're aligned. But then when I was reading at the scope, so it also seemed kind of similar. So if somebody can explain that, please. Thank you.
Sylvia, are you going to take that question?
Ms. Mussarat wants to.
Okay, sure, Mussarat, go ahead.
Okay, so what I understand by scope, Subha, is that when you see the breadth and the balance, the horizontal and the vertical alignment. So what I have done, and I have shown the example where the PLO and the next, like from 250 course to 350 course, and then to a 400 course, the way, what have you to prepare? How do you prepare your students in a 300 course to be able to, for the readiness of so that they can be successful in a 400 level course? So when you align, this is my understanding, I may be wrong, but when you align vertically and horizontally the PLOs with the SLOs, I think then the scope of your learning or students' learning and learning outcomes become broader. Somebody who wants to correct me or add in, please go ahead.
I want to add something to this. Remember, we shared these domains of learning with you all. So this is the scope of your program learning outcome, right? So your program should offer some bit of theory, moving on to methodology, talking about the practical application of skills, and then teaching students how to reflect on their performance, or, just teaching them higher order thinking skills, talking about value education, and then making the courses useful for the students to apply in the practical life or in their next stages of academic life. So this is the entire scope of the program learning outcomes. When we say that they should be aligned with the student learning outcomes, we mean to say that the student learning outcomes should clearly articulate which aspects of the program learning outcomes are they delivering. And when we talk about the scope of the program learning outcomes, then we mean to say that there should be a collection of everything in the program and not just only, one specific stern focus. I hope we were able to answer your question, Subha. Thank you so much. Anyone else who wants to say something? So we have some interesting comments in the meeting chat where Dr. Zubair says that what if the contents of the courses are updated? So would that mean that the PLOs would also be changed? So my answer to him is that ideally speaking, departments should offer only those courses which strengthen their program learning outcomes, that align closely with the program learning outcomes. Silvia, do you want to say something? Yes, please go ahead. Please help her unmute herself. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We had some cases. Just a moment.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, we had some cases in our department, particularly at the MPhil level, that we changed some of the courses that we were offering, and those courses had some assessments associated with them, and what we did, we are creating a policy. So whenever we make changes in the curriculum, we have to ensure that either the new course that we are adding or any other course that we are offering will cover that assessment for that PLO. So there needs to be some a policy within the department that if changes are made on the curriculum, the PLO is still covered and it has to be developed for whatever course it's more appropriate for that.
Thank you so much. I think it absolutely makes a lot of sense that you only offer
Mavish,
courses that strengthen your
you're
program
mute.
learning outcomes.
No one can hear you. You're mute.
Can you hear me now? Yeah?
Yes, we
Silvia,
can
you
hear
can't
her.
hear me. The rest of the people can. Yeah, okay. So it only makes sense when when new courses are offered to strengthen the existing program. So anything else? Any other comment? We have a comment from Dr.
Yeah, we have two
Maria.
questions in the chat
Yes.
as well.
Dr. Maria, please unmute yourself and go ahead, ask the question. Dr. Maria, we can't hear you. Just give us a second.
Yeah, we've asked you to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. The host was not allowing me to unmute. Okay, Dr. Mavish, thank you very much for the excellent training session. I would just like to reinforce one of the comments that I think we have already received. The program learning objectives, they have been designed by every department. And for BS program, we have a separate set of PLOs. For MPhil program, we have a separate set of PLOs. And for PhD program, we have a separate set of PLOs. I think all the faculty members should have access to these PLOs so that they can properly align their SLOs instead of reinventing the PLOs. It is better that if the head of department has some committee, which I'm sure the chemistry department has, and I'm sure other departments also have done this exercise. So it is important that these PLOs be shared with all the faculty members so that instead of reinventing our own PLOs, we can work on our subject related SLOs and we can align them better to these already established PLOs.
Thank you so much. Well, it's time for me to close the session, and I want to reinforce a few things. One thing that that is personally, I'm taking away from this session is to define how a teacher can basically achieve the program learning outcomes. What is it that we need to do in order to achieve the program learning outcomes? And another thing, there can be a situation where something about the PLOs need to be changed with the advent of new technology and things changing so rapidly in the higher education. There may be a time when we need to revisit the PLOs and omit some things. So in that, when we reach there, the best strategy would be to revisit the SLOs of the course outlines that we have to make sure that every course is there to strengthen the program learning outcome. So that's the big picture. Anything else that Dr. Ruxana, you want to add to this session? We cannot hear you.
Yes, because IFRA is a very tough gatekeeper. I think during question and answer, if you could unmute everybody, IFRA, that would be easier and not waste time. I think, Mavish, you have done a fabulous job, and Mussarat and Silvia and all those, Maria, even Alvina, I think, had some nice things to say. And I do see that people appreciate the rubric offered. And I think it's more work at your end. We are only here to sort of guide you and support you. Please do reach out if you need any additional help. And we have Mussarat to send you to. She will be happy to help you out. Thank you so much, Mavish. And thank you, Ifra and Gohar, and all those who made this possible.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. A special thanks to our resource persons. Mussarat, I'm really inspired by the way you have planned that activity. So much in there to learn from. And Silvia, thank you so much for sharing insights into how you made sure that every course you offer at your department really, supports the program learning outcomes. So we are open to your feedback. You know that we'd love to hear from you. So if you have any comments, if you have any further ambiguity which you want us to talk about in the next sessions, please feel free to write to me or Dr. Roxana or Gohar, Ifra, anybody from CLT. Now we have a big team. We are more accessible. So thank you so much and have a very good day, all of you. Thank you.